I remember that very clearly. I knew about 10 minutes before, about 10 minutes before they were announced. I knew who the winners were from every category, and I remember grabbing Greg and saying, "Look, you need to be up close to the stage. You'll understand why soon."
Yeah.
It was insane.
Hello, everybody. I'm AJ. I'm the director of sales here at Chicago Water Pros, and here today I have.
Jason, director of marketing.
And today on the Chicago Water Pros podcast, we have here Chris Hardy. Chris, do you want to tell these people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am, Chris Hardy, like you said, the senior director of sales. So kind of all have this director title going on. I love it.
Yeah.
And I've been with Xpel for about 7.5 years. Prior to Xpel, I had my own brick and mortar shops with a great business partner named Dave Glendenning up in Western Canada. We had a few Protex locations, which is a franchise model up there, as well as some non-franchise locations. And before that, I was in the automotive industry for quite a few years. Sorry for the dinging that goes on in the background. I apologize for the text messaging.
You're good.
Before that, I was in the dealership world for a number of years. So been in the car business. Well, I'm turning 54 in a couple months, so over 35 years now.
I would have guessed that you were 35. So
I'll take it. Listen, you just 2 watches next year. 2 watches.
all right, I'm on the good list. I wanted to kind of start this off. You sent out this here to a bunch of other shops here, and we wanted to kind of thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You know,
You're welcome.
I'm kind of a huge watch guy, so I kind of had to nerd out. And
listen, go ahead. Please finish that thought.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of go into it. Why did you choose to go with the Seiko?
Okay. I need to obviously, as usual, admit when this was not fully my own idea. There's an individual that's within our team at head office. His name's Danny Durkin. He's part of the marketing team. The man is, he really thinks outside the box. And so for a number of years in a row, we've been using this awesome company called Baskets, but it's Baskits. And it's headquartered in Toronto. As maybe you guys know, I grew up in Toronto, and so that's kind of how I knew about the company for some time. And so every account that had spent $100,000 or plus with us over the last number of years, we've been sending these baskets to. Well, Danny sends me this message on Teams one day, and he says, "Hey, check out these super cool." And it was a tool company. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Red and black, and I can't think of the name of the tool company right now. But the ones that drive around. Sorry?
Or Snap-on.
Thank you. Snap-on. That's it. And he's like, "Check out these Snap-on watches." And I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty wild." And he goes, "Yeah. Let's what do you think about the idea of us getting a hold of it?" And I said, "Hey, I'm in. Let's look into this." So he got a hold of it. He did all of the legwork. I didn't do any of it. He got the quote, and then they agreed, as you know, that yellow dial is Xpel's Pantone yellow. So they custom made that Pantone yellow for us in the dial. And, genuinely speaking, he put the whole thing together. All I did was sign off on it. And then the worst part was that they came in much later than we expected, right? We ordered them in the summer. And I think we would have expected them, August, September, October, maybe like November at the latest. And we did make some changes. So in fairness to Seiko, it's not like they were the delay. I'm sure it was probably on our part. Like we were like picking straps, like do we go with 1 or 2 and stuff like that.
That's it.
And then on top of that, we ended up realizing that more people this year were going to hit over the 100K mark. There's going to be 650 shops that would have done that instead of the number last year, which was, I think, just shy of 600, just over 600 is really close to 600 mark. And so I'm like, wow, we need to add to the order. And regardless, it came in like the week before Christmas. And then I had to leave, and I had to scramble like an entire team to try and get them sent out as fast as possible. So, typically in the past, we would have had a note from the rep, right? So the rep that services the shop would be on the note. Their manager would be on the note. and then typically me, and then the Xpel family. But with this one, we didn't have the luxury of getting that done in time, so they just all went out for me. But man, the amount of response we got out of them was obviously crazy. Some people were disappointed and not hit the number, but that was true every year where they didn't get a basket, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't get a basket. Like, hey, we got a set number. It's pretty straightforward. Hit it, it's yours. And but again, a lot of people took that challenge last year and stepped to the plate. I think there was again, 45, 50 more people this year. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more for next year. Now I've just got to figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it almost falls in line because we started doing something similar with a lot of our customers, where if you meet a certain criteria, we actually made some challenge coins. I don't know if you know what a challenge coin is, but on the back of the design there, it's I don't know if you're a wheel guy. It's a Workmeister wheel, and it's got the Chicago background and everything, the buffers and squeegees and stuff like in between the spokes. And we serialized all of them, so now we hand it out, to very specific customers that fit our criteria. Hey, thanks for being a good customer. Here's a challenge coin, and you can pass it along, and they get their benefits when they pass it along.
That's awesome. Well done. But I mean, Chicago Auto Pros has always been a leader in the ideas and concepts they've come up with of course, the reasons why marketing, all of those things. It's one of the reasons why it's had the meteoric rise that very few shops in the United States or anywhere have had. And, that's a testament to you guys and the entire team, headed up by Greg. And I think it's incredible.
We definitely appreciate that too. I think the very first time we met was right before the shop started blowing up. You and the team came to the Glenview shop whenever you guys were in town. And that was like me in my early days, and I was running the Glenview shop. And it's good to just kind of be here now and seeing where everything's at, and being with you guys the entire time. Like it's definitely helped us in terms of kind of the brand, knowing that, or I guess Xpel is such a strong brand that when it works with us in conjunction with us, it almost solidifies in terms of quality and like the materials and who they're using and who they know. And we'd like to thank you too for being a part of our kind of come up,
I point out you guys all the time as one of the, when people say like, who's an account that I could look at if I want to also recognize growth opportunities and how to grow and things of that nature. I'm like, I'm not saying that they're going to give you their secret sauce, but I can tell you some accounts worth pointing out. And Chicago Auto Pros is always top of list for that reason. And I do agree with you. I think that, of course, Xpel's got an incredible name, and they do an amazing job within their marketing department as well. I think that, in fairness, it's probably been our number one or number two attribute other than the software. It's those two. They're like first and second since 2011, right? It's those two. And the rest of the brands are still great brands. I'm very cognizant of many other good brands that are on the market. Obviously, there is probably brands I'm not a big fan of either, low quality brands per se, but
we won't name any.
They have their own. Yeah, definitely no names, of course, never. I mean, that's a big faux pas for us. We don't like disparaging another company, of course, but there's lots of companies that we give accolades to. But where I think that we've done a better job, just like you guys have, is specifically consumer awareness marketing platforms that make a difference.
Yeah, and we definitely try to hold on to that. It's always, we wanted to kind of make sure that, hey, if you're this type of person that wants the best quality out of it, not necessarily price focused, hey, we're here for you, and we're going to give you the best stuff, and we'll give you the best install. That's really the core of everything that we believe in here. So that kind of goes into this too, because I was thinking in my mind, like, yeah, you could have just went and got like cheap old, Temu watches, but you actually went through and like I picked up on the yellow of the dial. Like I said, I'm kind of a watch nerd when it comes to certain things like this. I nerd out on a bunch of things, but I picked up on it. I was like, hey, that's the yellow on the box. And we see the box every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, like, again, hats off to Danny Durkin.
Yeah, good job, Danny.
The man always impresses me. He was the one that designed our booth for SEMA 2 years ago, where it looked like the house that was super modern looking house. It was amazing. He was again the design factor behind this year, which was super technological and advanced and much more futuristic. The guy's got a very artistic brain set that I don't pretend to have, and so leave it to the experts.
I'll also say, like, I think I'm kind of putting my own analogy in it, but Seiko's kind of known for their reliability. So coming into like you guys giving out the Seiko watches kind of says, hey, the film we use is highly reliable as well.
Been around for a long time, something you can bank on, count on.
Yep.
I agree with you. There's all that nuance to it for sure. But again, I realize that again stemmed from other people's thought patterns, not my own. When they present it to me, I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. I love it. Let's go.
It all works together, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I had a chance this week. We had our board of directors in this week, and I had a chance to present each of them with a watch as well, and they were quite impressed. I said, "This is what we did for our client group this year, and what do you think?" And they all loved them. So it's really cool.
I loved it because I thought about doing something like that as well. It was actually a thought in my mind before we actually settled on the challenge coins, and I was like, "There's no way we can afford to get watches for everybody," So I kind of scrapped it. But then
it was a few bucks.
But then yours showed up in the mail, and it was all kind of just somehow we were all on the same wavelength. And
somebody's got their hand up in the background there.
Yeah, I love that you actually went through, or he's actually the challenge coin here.
Oh, cool.
So I'll pull it out and I'll kind of show you.
Yeah.
We had the same similar situation where we ordered it and it came a lot later than expected.
Yeah, so here's the front of it. I'll show it to you because we can record our own B-roll. But
oh, wow. Damn, that looks amazing.
Yeah, so we got brake caliper in blue. Year we were founded, 2012. You got Chicago on through one of the spokes. Buffing pad, bottom right. This one right here is like all the chemicals.
And
is this where I get to complain like people online saying, "Where's mine?"
we definitely have enough. We can get you one.
We'll sell you one. And there's actually like
a
cool. Gotta sell it, dude.
This man gave us a Seiko, dude.
And right here, so this one's number 43.
Wow.
And then it's got our values on the back right there. And AJ can tell you about like what the coin means and kind of the benefits that come with it.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of nerd out about a lot of these things. So I kind of have a military background, so challenge coins have always kind of just been a part of that culture. And even down to the finest details with this, like if you look at the edge of the coin itself on the wheel side, I wanted it so hard to make it look like the rivets that go into the 3-piece wheels, and then the lip itself looked like the original like lip of the wheel too. So it looks like a kind of basic concept, but a lot of thought kind of went into it in terms of like, hey, make sure you can see the slotted rotors. Make sure that it's a big brake kit. Make sure that, you can kind of see all this to where people just, the longer you stare at it, the more details you kind of pick out on it.
Yeah, but like, those subtle details, that is what makes the difference. That is showing a lot of thought, that went into it, and it means a lot, and like you said, core values. I think it's awesome. Well done.
Thank you.
But again, I'm not surprised. I have admired you guys for a long time. So.
And we appreciate that. And it's been great working with you guys. I think it was 2020 XTC I went, and it was a fun time. It was great.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. So one of the big questions, and this kind of came off too when we very first met many years ago, is that you have a huge, I would say, dedication to BJJ.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to kind of go into that and kind of just tell us, what led you into that?
I'll try and make it a quick story, but it tends not to be, especially as you know, because I talk too much. I look, when the UFC was first on television way back in the day in Canada, there was this like almost underground channel called Spike TV. It doesn't exist anymore. And it was on legitimate broadcasting, but again, it was really the far out stuff. And here's the UFC, and I watched UFC 1, and I watched Royce Gracie, the skinny guy, beat up a bunch of jacked up dudes who did other martial arts. And I was a crazy fan of it. And, the show nearly went bankrupt multiple times, and meanwhile managed to stick around. But when I was 37, so I guess it's 17 years ago just about now, yeah, a gentleman walked into the Harley Davidson dealership that I was running in Western Canada, and he had asked to put a poster on our corkboard that was right by the front door. And I'm like, well, I need to approve it first. Do you mind if I take a look at it? And the poster was of a fight, King of the Cage Fight League was going on in a town not too far from Kamloops, British Columbia. So Kamloops, British Columbia, by the way, is 3.5 hours to the interior of Vancouver. It's an 85,000 population blue collar town. And the town that this was going on in was in Vernon, which is about an hour away, and it's even smaller, probably like 45,000 people. And I'm like, wow, like we have UFC here in Canada? Being a little ignorant, I didn't know there was other leagues. And he's like, well, basically, it's not the UFC, it's King of the Cage, it's another series, but yes. Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I'd like to attend myself. That's great. And I said, just out of curiosity, like, why are you putting up the posters? Are you a promoter or whatever? And he goes, no, look, I'm co-head, co-main event. I see his photo, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is you. And he's like, yeah, I'm fighting on the card. I'm the second last fight. And I'm like, wow, so like, you came up from the States, like you guys are coming around from I just assumed everything was out of Vegas and what have you, and they're doing all this. No, I have a dojo right here in town. And I was a bit of a gym rat like you are, and I really like going to the gym a lot. I certainly had never done any sort of a martial. Well, that's not true. I did karate when I was much younger, but no contact sports. And so he was like, "You should come check it out." Well, it took me about 6 months to get up the courage to finally go down. I actually went to the gym and worked out harder, right? And worked out more, trying to get myself a little more fit, if you will. And went down with a lot of adrenaline and stuff like that, but told him that as much as I loved watching jiu-jitsu, I had no interest in the ground game. I didn't want some guy being on top of me sweating into my face and stuff, so no.
Yeah.
And so I said, look, I'll do the stand-up. I'm coming in for stand-up. I think it'd be a good skill set to learn some sort of self-defense. And it's like, okay. So I go in, I do like a couple stand-up classes, and in the first week, I did, like, he of course was a good salesperson. He approached me. He's like, hey, why don't you do a 1-year membership? This is the discount. Okay, cool. So I paid him for 1 year. But it's an MMA academy. Trained for about 3 weeks. It's definitely less than a month. And it was a Thursday night. I'm leaving. He's like, hey, I'll see you Monday. I'm like, no. Monday's jiu-jitsu. I'll see you Tuesday. Nope. I'll see you Monday. No. If you remember, Chad, I'm just here for stand-up. I don't want to do jiu-jitsu. And then I won't say the language because, it'd be kind of rude right now, but little F-bombs were going off here. And he's like, I'll see you Monday or else don't ever come back in the gym again. And I'm like, I kind of paid you for a year up front already. Yeah. I kind of feel like we'd already covered this. But he was not one I was going to argue with because it wouldn't go well. And so I deliberated over the whole weekend about whether I was going to go in Monday, and I finally did, and did my first lesson in jiu-jitsu, and realized that as much as I like to stand up, this was my world. It's very much like a chess match, as you know probably already, and you can definitely have the smaller person win against a larger individual if the skill sets are not equal. So. Did my first MMA fight at 40. Last fight at MMA at 40 as well, because the last one I got knocked out for, I don't remember now, but it was a long time. And it was from a kickboxer who was 0-2 in MMA, but 21-0 in kickboxing.
Holy smokes.
And so I thought this was going to be a good match, and it wasn't. And he was half my age. And so he knocked me out really bad. And I said, okay, that's it. No more in the cage fighting. I got it out of my system. And then a couple years later, I finally started competing again in jiu-jitsu. And then I really finally started doing well, because in the beginning I was losing every single fight. And then at the end of the blue belt, I started winning some big tournaments. And first couple fights in purple I lost, and then I started on tear and started winning just about everything at purple. And then lost my first fight or two at brown, and then won a tear in brown belt. And my accolade, if you will, is that the IBJJF, which is considered the highest level of jiu-jitsu, gi on jiu-jitsu competition, I ranked number 1 in the world for both the gi and without the gi in the 2020/2021 season, because the season's halfway through the year, in both my weight and then more importantly in the open weight. Now, before that sounds like I beat every single person up who was bigger than me. That's not the case. I definitely won some fights, but I scored more points ultimately than anybody else did through the year. So I won the Pan Ams, I won the American Nationals, I won an obscene amount of tournaments and competed more often, because the big guys tend to get hurt more often too, right? They're bigger.
Less
And
nimble.
once something goes wrong, it tends to be a little bit more impactful. So they don't necessarily compete as often. So regardless, claim to fame, can't get that taken away from me. That was the year that was my shining star for sure. And so much so that at dealer conference this year, which is coming up in just a few more weeks, we're going to be attending a jiu-jitsu seminar by world champion Professor Daniel Pinero, who's a 4- or 5-time world champion. And that's going on the Thursday night before conference for all of those that have registered for it. So people that are coming to conference, they would have received an email saying, if you want to attend the jiu-jitsu seminar, please reach out, attend it, register, and we're gonna get it on.
Yeah, it's gonna be tight. Yeah, I love the last one we went to. I only went to one, but it was a great time, and that was the year that our tinter got number 1. You know, so
I remember that very clearly. I knew about 10 minutes before. About 10 minutes before they were announced. I knew who the winners were from every category, and I remember grabbing Greg and saying, "Look, you need to be up close to the stage. You'll understand why soon."
Yeah.
It was insane.
It was a great moment. I just remember he had like 3 minutes left on that back window, and he looked over to me and he goes, "AJ, how much time do I have left?" I fake looked at my watch. I was like, "Oh, you got plenty of time. Just keep going." You know, and as he kept working and kept going, and I looked back at my watch. I'm like, "Oh man, he's really cutting it close here." And I remember he used every single second that was given to him. That it was down to 3, 2, 1. Drop your tools, and after that, I don't remember how long it took, but we went into the conference room afterwards, and that later that night, we all were just we have to have it. You used every single one. Everything was perfect on that window, which kind of goes into a little bit about what you were saying about the coin and everything else. It's all the little details. I remember there was another contestant, they finished within like 20 minutes or something like that, all the windows that they had to do. And we were always, we used all the time. We always ran out the time. But it goes to show at least the testament of make sure everything looks good. It doesn't matter how long it takes, make sure it's good.
Yeah, so the only time we keep using the same sentence. The only time that will matter is if the score is tied. If the score is tied, then it's the person with the least amount of time that it took to do to do that score that wins. But that does not happen very often. So I'm with you. I mean, look, the first things first, right? Make it as perfect as you can in a allotted time, rather than just trying to rush through it. And if you feel that your perfection's already done and you finish quickly, okay, so be it. But I think that the majority of the people that tend to win are very aware of just how much time they've got left, and they're using as much of it as they possibly can. Yeah.
I felt like a dad at a soccer game. I was just telling them, don't look at your watch, just don't look at the time. Just worry about getting the film on the window as good as you can. And I was just there rooting them on. Kind of going through the sidelines. We had 2 guys contesting that year. And I was just hopping back between both. I was literally like the dad at the soccer game. It was.
That was a cool
good time.
prize too, right? Because was it 10 grand?
Yes, it was cash.
10 grand cash?
Yeah. So I think he actually bought a Mercedes when he got back. So
Man, that's good. You know what? That's something that we should know. We should find out if that's accurate, so we can say, "Hey, look what the winner did one year with their prize money."
yeah, it was, we can finally say we got award-winning installers. We've kind of been using that.
Like,
It's good. Listen, it's accurate, and you're not talking like a small conference, right? This year we have a record attendance again this year. This is going to be the biggest year ever, and so we're excited. But I mean, it's been a massive conference for us forever. That's why we have to have it in San Antonio. I mean, people say like, why don't you host it in Orlando or Vegas or other places? We're like, do you have any clue what it would take for us to set up somewhere else with all of those contraptions, right? The plotters, the stands, the peel boards, the light. I mean, it's okay. Lights you can get from another city, whatever. But still, we utilize in excess of 170 staff members to put that function on and make it what it is, and that's not including some of the clerical staff, if you will. I don't think that's a fair term for them, but some of the people that help us out with the clerical duties in the background back at offices.
Yeah, and I love, not only is it just like a competition, and this is for the viewers who don't know what this is. It's almost like I don't want to kind of dumb it down, but any industry has their conference where everybody gets together. But this is also kind of a competition in terms of, all the shops have their egos trying to prove who's the best out there. But what I took away from a lot of it were the classes you guys were offering. I can kind of sprout off and go sit in a class for a while and kind of learn more about the industry, really.
Yeah, so that's something that's important to me. I've attended a lot of conferences, I'm sure you have over the years, and some conferences with some brands in particular, it seems like what they're doing is they're just puffing up their chest and talking about themselves. And, Ryan's been very serious about the fact that conference has to be a opportunity for us to help shops learn and grow, and not just a sales pitch or not just a raw session. If you look at it, Ryan's on stage, right? Ryan Pape, our CEO, he's typically on stage for no more than an hour to an hour and a half out of the entire 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that's by design. Those, we always bring in a pretty serious guest speaker. Obviously, those people are not inexpensive, and they're not necessarily in our industry, right? And then we have all those breakout sessions. And then sometimes we have leaders within our industry running the breakout session. Like I know for a fact that this year, Rick Jeffries is going to be participating in some of the dealership breakout sessions. I know that we've got Jared Gines coming back in once again to talk about social media. I know that we have Thad Norman talk about Google SEO and website. And we've got others, right? We've got Kristen, who's coming in. She works for a company that does recruiting, right? She's a recruiter.
Oh, nice.
And that's something a lot of our industry is always looking for. It's like, hey, we need more staff. And we were like, well, hey, since this is a constant topic, how could we address this? And I won't butcher her last name, but yeah, I mean, that's the first time we've done that class or breakout session. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm personally going to be hosting what we call Panel of Champions this year on stage, which is where we're going to be pointing at certain people within the industry and letting the audience ask them questions, but they're specialists, right? I have somebody who has just a single point shop that's pretty dramatic in the space.
Yeah.
I have somebody that's got multiple stores. I have somebody that's got an insane amount of stores, like a franchise almost model. And then I have somebody that specializes in dealership activity, so that depending on who the audience is, they can ask a question of somebody who's a genuine specialist within that field and get somewhere with it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
There's still tickets available for this? Because you said a lot of things that I now want to go see.
So let me be clear. If you look online, we posted that it is sold out. And it really is in that we did a room block And the room block that we did was based on last year's numbers. Well, as I said, we surpassed that, and last year was a record year. We then went to other hotels within the Marriott chain that are hopefully local to the River Center, which is where it's being held, and said, "Hey, do you have any rooms?" Well, what they have is some conventions going on, and there's a term for it. I think it's called TMEA. I really don't know what that means, but it's basically such a large conference that every hotel has room blocked for that specific conference. So I remember a few years ago that happened with Vision Source. Vision Source, which has over 5,000 locations. I think that's what the number is right now. And I only know that because my good friend, Dr. Amir, is the head of it. They were going to their conference at the same time. They took up rooms everywhere. And then we couldn't get more rooms within the hotel. So we started scrambling and trying to find others. We ended up positioning people in like 4 or 5 different hotels around the city. And then, of course, they had to make their way over to the conference, what have you. But it is what it is. Look, we started, the XDC was on sale for 6 months ago or so. Many people wait till the very last second. It's not normal. It's not abnormal. It's very normal. And so because we already ran out, we then got a 50-room block across the street, or 40-room block across the street. That's already ran out. We got another 10-room block over at the AC. That's ran out. So what we've done, which is the first time we've done this, is we said, hey, let's not worry then at this point about the rooms. Lots of people have ways of finding rooms. Some of them bunk with some of their friends that are attending instead, whatever. Who cares? Let's have a conference charge without the room attached to it. And if they want to do an Airbnb or they want to stay in their buddy,
it out.
Yeah, let them figure it out. Because previously we're like, no. But I mean, I think we're going to approach 1,000 people this year. And so let's just, this year being such an instrumental year and with all these breakout sessions going on, like you said, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are going to just find their own their own room housing.
And I can kind of give you like a testimonial on the shop side at least. And what I realized what it did for the guys in the morale, it really bonded all of us way closer. And we I won't say exactly how we work, but essentially it's kind of departmentalized, right? You've got your PPF guys, your tank guys, detailers, and then me, the sales guy. And the challenge is getting everybody to mingle. That way the job can leave at the same time that we told the customer it would leave. And I just remember going to that, and it just really brought everybody together. And after that, things were just solid. It really does help in terms of, one, morale and cohesiveness within your team. It's almost like the saying where, misery brings company. Everybody, we were pushing to make a name for ourselves, and we did. And I think it boasted my tinter's ego up, but it brought the entire team together.
Yeah, look, there's 2 facets in which I think it makes a big difference in that respect, right? One is definitely within teams. Like you said, you've got a lot of personalities within teams, and it's like, and I worked in the dealership world forever, right? Sales typically hated service, and service hated sales, and then parts hated everybody, and then, the finance department in the back was really the kicker of all. And so any opportunity that you could do like a barbecue or something like that, or an event, was beneficial, because getting people to see each other as a normal human being and with a real life and personality was a good thing. But the other thing that I like a lot about it is that you realize real quick that the people in that room are all like-minded to some extent, and they're willing to treat you as almost like a partner in the space rather than a competitor.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of that.
Yeah, right. Like so many shops where you would be like, wow, like you guys are all in Chicago, yet you guys are hanging out with each other and talking to each other, and now, communicating in a very positive, effective manner. It happens a lot. And it's always really empowering for me to see that.
Yeah, it was a great experience. And, we try and convince, hey, can we try to figure something out here and get these guys out here? I don't know for a fact if we're gonna go this year. It sounds like it might be too late, but we've definitely
Not
brought
too
it
late.
up. Well, with that being
Still do
said,
the Airbnb, can still do the Airbnb, and
there's
or
still going to be
figure-
some more
or-
tries to convince them to go. Then
well,
it's definitely well worth it. I think, especially for the morale of the team. At least you're just slaving away all year and knocking these cars out. Let's let these guys have a little bit of fun and show off what we can do.
Yeah, and they're always learning something, right? I mean, look, we have advanced courses going on. No matter who you are and how good you are and how long you've been doing this, there's always genuinely a new technique that comes out that you've never seen before, and you're like, ooh, I want to try that out. And maybe you like it and maybe you don't. I watched a person, this guy Luke from Protex Vancouver, and he was doing the full hood. And I watched the way that he unwound the film. So he kind of like reverse rolled it like you do a California roll, but he did corner to corner. And I'd never
that's
seen this
interesting.
before.
Yeah.
In all my years, I'd never seen this before. And he goes, well, this is how I get away with 72-inch film. So this was not a 72-inch piece, by the way. But he rolled it up like a kite.
Yeah.
And then he stuck the one corner to the passenger's A-pillar just below it on the fender.
Yep. I'm
And then
imagining
he
it.
reverse rolled it, right? California rolled it underneath, and it went, and I was like, wow.
Somehow it just naturally laid all laid out.
Yeah, but like you didn't need two people. You didn't need one person pulling liner and one person spraying it, and I was just like, oh, this is it. This is the technique to be able to go on site to a dealership by yourself and still do a full hood without the necessity of all that other stuff. It was awesome. And Luke's he's a kid. I mean, he looks like a real kid. I mean, he looks like he's 18 years old. I'm sure he's 30 or something like that. But, my business partner, Dave, had been doing it, probably not exaggerating when I say probably before he was born. And we had never seen that in our lives.
Yeah.
So just one small example.
Yeah, we loved it, and I just love seeing the interactions between different installers. Because all the installers, no matter what industry you're in or what shop they were a part of, like everybody just connected. It's like, oh, there's more of me out there. It's not just me.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a serious bonding moment, not only within the team but from outside. Like there's quite a few people where I remember back in 2017 had come to conference for a first time. Or I guess it was 18, right? Because I started in 2017. And it was 2018, they'd come to conference for the very first time, and they had been clients of Xpel's for some time and yet never attended conference. So I did a good job at like convincing people, hey, I really think it's worth attending. To this day, I'm in a group text with 17 of those people still, where occasionally there's still a messaging going on like, hey, I've got this really tough car. Has anybody taken this one apart before? Or even like I know like a Mike Burke or an Eddie is going to get in there and give a raw moment to the entire crowd,
Yeah.
And it's amazing, right? We're talking, 6 years later, this is still going on, and they're from all over the U.S. They're not from any one given area.
Nice. So I wanted to really kind of keep this podcast like super informative, just to have people know who you are.
Sure.
So my other question really is, besides the BJJ, is there any other kind of hidden hobbies that we should know about?
Well, I mean, so I have two young kids, right? My wife is a few years younger than me, and we have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and we they're what I work so hard for, and it's amazing. Everybody tells you pay attention because they grow up so fast. It's as cliche as it is. It's very accurate. And so I work a lot. I really enjoy work. I love what I do. I love the company that I work for. I love the hours that I put in. I love the traveling that's a requirement of it, just because part of the deal. And so my trouble with that is, of course, a balance, right? It's like when you love your job this much, if I didn't have a wife and kids, I would be just as content working 15 hours a day every single day of the month, 30 days a month, no problem. So trying to pull back on that a little bit and make sure that you're engaged with them and being a part of their upbringing in life is important. So I typically do 2 weeks off, like 2 weeks traveling and 2 weeks at home. And then the 2 weeks at home, I make sure I go and get jujitsu in, although I go and get jujitsu when I'm traveling too. And then I definitely get time with them. So that's really about the only other passion. I mean, like you, I have a lot of things that I guess I'm a like a fan of. Like I do love shoes. I have
That was going to be a follow-up question because
I have a big shoe and big watch collection. I love clothing in general. Of course, I love cars. I have a few of those, too many, especially according to my wife. But no, with the workload that I have, and then the home life that I have in jiu-jitsu, there's really not much room for anything else. But again, we make the best of it. Like we just got back from Dominican Republic. We were down there for 10 days. It was an incredible vacation. We went to an all-inclusive resort. I went to the super cool jiu-jitsu academy in downtown Punta Cana that was actually outdoors. It was the first time I've ever been to an outdoor academy in my life. It was a thatched roof where when it rained, it poured in on the mats.
That's crazy.
That's cool.
It was awesome. And
it's like a scene out of a John Wick movie.
Yeah, it was great. It was really good, and we had a good time. Like, and so, like, and then, and so, like, if I'm gonna go away to any destination for a long period of time, quite often, I'll look at the calendar and determine whether or not it's appropriate for me to bring the kids as well, wife and kids. And so, if we can, we do. And so, I'll work all day during the day, and then at night, we'll at least still have time together, and we're not away from each other as much as we would be otherwise. But other than that, no, like I'm not a video game person. I'm not a major TV person. I do enjoy reading, although I don't do nearly enough of it. And then, of course, it's as I said, spending money on watches and cars and clothing.
So, follow-up question: you had to pair a pair of shoes with a car. What's the pairing?
So I have a number of pairs of shoes with a car. So if you mean the ones that were blue, that were the Corvette Z06, so is that the ones you're talking about?
Yeah, just really the question is, if you had to pair a pair of shoes with a specific car, what are you pairing?
Oh, so sorry. I understand now. Well, my car of my dreams, to be very candid, is something I'm unsure of whether or not I'll ever own, but it is a goal, and I usually make those happen. And it's a Pagani Huayra Roadster. To me, that is the most beautiful machine on the planet. I don't think anything's ever looked as good as that. I think a Jaguar E-Type Roadster Series 1 is a distant second best. It was my favorite car in terms of genuine looks overall, beauty, aesthetics. And then the Pagani came along, and I'm like, yeah, nothing even close. So regardless, and then well, then I don't, I'd probably end up matching that with something like a Puma driving shoe, right? But unfortunately, most of those Puma driving shoes that are really nice are the Ferrari brand, and I know that because I have some. And so since I have a Ferrari as well, I will admit that there's a cliche going on, but I'd probably have Never Ride Stock custom make me a pair of shoes to go with the Pagani, as they did for my Corvette.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
It's just kind of something I've always daydreamed about. Like, all right, if I were to drive an NSX, I have to get loafers and recreate Senna driving an NSX. Right? I think everybody out there knows what I'm talking about with the heel toe and loafers. Where Senna's just driving around the track with the loafers on with the NSX. Really, if I was ever in an NSX, it's got to be loafers. If I'm driving a Rolls Royce, maybe a pair of Air Force Ones or something.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I have a large mixture of running shoes. Again, a lot of them have been custom done by Rob Gullery and his team at Never Ride Stock. There's the Shoe Doctor, of course, and some others out there. But to me, the most talented group in the U.S. is Rob's team at NRS. And they've definitely made some really cool pieces for me over the year. You missed the ones that I was wearing last year. Then at SEMA, at XDC, sorry, they're Air Jordans, but they're off whites.
That was going to ask you. Yeah, I was
And then
gonna because I saw a picture of
customized
them.
from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
They were insane, and they
Yeah.
were a gift actually from the distributor of Xpel in Brazil. Mauro and his team, they know that I'm a pretty big shoe fan, and they knew Rob Gullery from the previous year, and they commissioned him to put these shoes together for the two of them. There was three pairs in total, two for them and then one for me, and it was just amazing.
So correct me if I'm wrong, and make sure I saw the right photo. It was a black pair of shoes with the yellow off-white, correct? Yeah. And I'm assuming that the yellow was representing the Xpel as well. It's just what I'm going to assume. Now, if you had to pair those shoes with a car, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a good one, right? I mean, because man, that's I think it needs to be a muscle car. I think it needs to be like I don't know, like a 1970 Barracuda or a 70 Chevelle SS or something like that, because those shoes are just so aggressive. I mean, look, they got spiked on the front toe, and some other attributes as well. But then you're like, but it's off-white. Like, shouldn't it be something a little more serious than that, or a little bit more refined than that? I don't know. It's like oil and water. Like, could you do something like a Vantage instead and be like complete opposite, like the exact opposite of what you expect to get out of the car?
I was expecting Vantage as the answer
rather
than the muscle car, but I like the muscle car answer too. It makes total sense.
Yeah, I have some muscle cars now, right? I have a Cobra replica. I've got a 32 Ford Deuce Highboy, and then I've got some other toys. So I'm a fan of cars in general, right? They do not have to be any specific genre or only modern cars or what have you. I just love cars overall, and even a daily driver, there's probably something about it that I'm going to find that I genuinely like about it. Whether Kia, Hyundai, Honda, Toyota, doesn't matter. There's always something. Like I saw a Toyota Camry the other day, and it was an SE, but it had the rear spoiler had that like interesting sort of design on it where it looks more like a jet fighter sort of rear tail.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I was like, wow, like that's a sick spoiler, and that's Toyota's.
Yeah,
like, that was cool looking.
Yeah, really I actually just purchased a GR Corolla, and I saw the wing on the circuit model, and when I saw that, in my mind, it took me 8 months to find it, but in my mind I finally got it, yeah, and it was I have to have that wing. I have to have the carbon roof, and I have to have that wing. Like, there's no doubt about it.
The car is amazing.
I love it.
I haven't had the chance to drive it though yet.
Well, like, you're down in Texas, aren't you?
Sorry?
You're down in Texas, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Houston, so we can meet up sometime.
We need to. We need to take that for a boot.
Yeah, I'm like you. I do a lot of traveling back and forth here, but for you, it comes with the job, so.
Yeah.
I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
Are every single one of your cars PPF'd?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So
I would hope so.
Yeah, look, and that's been going on for a long time, right? Because again, prior to working for Xpel, as partners with Dave, so we had our own shop. So obviously, we tended to get to our vehicles last, of course, like every shop owner does.
Yeah.
Even
which
employees.
is kind of weird, because you're driving around as literally like the ambassador of your own company, and then if you, especially in British Columbia, like if you drive your vehicle around in the winter, there's a really good chance that within the week you've gotten your first stone chip. Right. So, but quite often we couldn't get to our vehicles just because of how busy we were. What was amazing is that we always got to our significant others' vehicles before ours. Like we'd make sure that, Julie or Tatiana's car got done right away if they got a new vehicle. And I don't know why that always worked out that way, but yes. And then, typically full body, but on my current company car, I only have a full front end, and didn't do the full body, although I wish I did, because sure enough, I got a little scratch in one of the rear bumper piece, and I know that if the film was on it, that would have been scratched and wrecked, and I would have had to, but I could have just pulled it off and replaced it. Instead, I had to fix the paint, so that kind of sucked.
Yeah, it's definitely. I usually tell people like, "Hey, full front is going to cover a lot." I'll throw a random number out there, like, "Hey, full front's going to cover like 80% of what can happen in the real world." The other is, that last 20% is either a very specific reason why you want to do it, or it's an anomaly, right? And
Yeah.
nobody can plan for an anomaly.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, my favorite, if we're going to talk about what's really beneficial for the consumer on the average, the most obvious package to me is like what we would all typically call the track pack, right?
Full
Yep.
So the
front
full front end,
rockers.
the A pillar, the roof line, and then the rockers, and then definitely behind the rear tire on that bumper trim.
Oh yeah.
And then, of course, door pockets and door edges are a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's we try to like cater to everybody. When somebody tells me, "Oh, I want a full front," a lot of the times it's because somebody told them they had to get or full car. My mistake. They'll come to me and they'll say, "Hey, I want to get a full car done," and you can almost hear it in their voice, like somebody told them that's what they had to do. So it's like, all right, let's slow down for a second. Why are you actually looking to do a full car? And if you tell me because you want to preserve it for the rest of its life and you're going to keep it for the rest of your life, okay, perfect. But if your brother just told you to do the full car just to do it, hey, it's your money. I'll do it. But do you really think you need it?
Right.
I'll just let them make the decision.
Did you do the whole Corolla?
No, I didn't. It's a
Oh,
daily
really?
driving, and I tend to. And this is a question I ask a lot too: is are you going to lose sleep when you see a rock chip? You're either going to get a yes or you're going to get a no. If I get a rock chip big enough on my hood, I might lose sleep. But if I get a small one on the flare, like the rear flare or something, I know it comes with the territory.
Listen, you're doing better than me.
Yeah,
That first chip drives me crazy, regardless of where it is.
But after the first one happens, it's almost like, all right, it's out of the way.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a level of acceptance at that point for sure.
You look like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I'm getting PTSD. I had a BMW, and I just remember seeing. It was before I worked here, and I just had so many rock chips on the hood and the bumper, and it just because it was low, it's a 4 Series, and I would just drive the crap out of that thing, and it was silver, so it kind of hit it, but I just remember getting out of my car and staring at the hood. Like I would just stand there with my hands on my hips, just staring at it. Like, God damn, this sucks. And then I come to work here, and I'm like, oh my God, like, this stuff is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I found out about this stuff by accident, right? I was working at Harley. You guys know the story already?
No.
No.
So I'm working at Harley Davidson, and Harley Davidson every year at their dealer convention in Milwaukee, they have like anywhere between like 8 and 12 custom paint sets. And so they're themed, and what you get is per dealership. The dealership gets these like little coins that look very similar to your challenge coin, but it's got the dealership number on it instead. What you do is you walk around the room and you look at the displays of these paint sets, and you put your chip in to anyone that you want to try and win a paint set.
Oh, nice.
Because they're limited.
That's cool.
Yeah.
They make 150 of them for the globe, and you don't know what model it's coming in. So like it can come in a Sportster, it can come in a Softail, it can come in a Dyna, it can come in a Tourer, whatever. But if you want to try and win a paint set, you put your chip in. So we win this Joker paint set, and it ended up being in a Road Glide. So I knew the paint set was coming in. I called a well-heeled client, if you will. Said, hey, I've got something super cool. We won the Joker paint set, and it's in a Road Glide. Do you want it? Yeah. As a matter of fact, I want it on a CVO Ultra. Okay. So bike comes in its normal paint, black. Well, this one was black. We swap all the tins out. We put this paint set on, and they're quite expensive. Like you're talking like $12,000. They're numbered. It's not like there's 150. It's like number 13 of 150.
Yeah.
You end up getting something from Harley later on that's like a certificate of authenticity and stuff like that. Like it's a pretty serious thing. The gentleman rides off. He comes back literally about a week later. It's like, hey, I got to show you something on the bike. Okay. We'll walk outside, and the and the Road Glide's got the dual headlights. So if I'm looking at the bike, just to the right of that headlight, there's like a mark like this big, and it's that color, that white.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, you took a pretty serious knock on it. He's like, yeah, I don't know what hit it, but it chipped off the paint. He's like, so I'm going to need you to order me another fairing. And I'm like, Rick, I'm sorry, but that's humanly impossible. You got number whatever of 150. They don't make extras. It's it. Like, there's nothing else. So what are we going to do? I'm like, well, we're going to have to send it to a body shop and, get on our knees and pray that it comes out okay. And like we did send it to Buzz's, and Buddy's is considered one of the best body shops in Canada, and they did a phenomenal job. But I remember talking openly about this in front of some other people, like, man, I can't believe that Rick's bike has already gotten a chip, and how terrible. And my friend Mitch says, why don't you call Dave? Why would I call Dave? What do you mean call Dave? It's like, yeah, Dave. I'm like, Dave, he tints windows for a living. What am I calling him for? It's like, no, man, he does this like clear plastic film thing. I don't know what it's called. And he puts it on cars. Maybe he could put it on bikes too. So I literally thought, sounds like saran wrap. What are you talking about? Call Dave. I'm like, hey, what does Mitch talk about? He's like, yeah, that's the majority of my business, not 10. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, I still don't get it. Come up here and show me. So he came up and he did an installation on the top of a saddlebag. And if you guys ever ride, you know that every time you throw your leg over, quite often your boot makes connection with the top of the saddlebag and scratches it. So now the saddlebag lid is done. And then I don't remember what we did to scratch it, because he definitely didn't have a wire brush with him, but he scratched it somehow, maybe with a rock or something. And he's like, hey, go grab a cup of boiling water from the hot water dispenser where we, teas and stuff. Okay, grabbed it, came back, poured it over it, watched it disappear. I was like, is that a parlor trick? Like, what is this? It's like, no, this is brand new film. It just came out. It's called this, self-healing film from Xpel. Okay.
And do you kind of recall what year or how long ago that was?
2011 or 12. Like they had to have been 2011 or 12, because Xpel brought out. They didn't officially launch Ultimate until 2012, but it was on the market in 2011.
And I just wanted to kind of give the viewers a sense of it, just kind of how long this technology has been around. It's thousands and thousands of cars has used this product.
Oh, hundreds of thousands of cars.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands. And, at least me, I've probably seen thousands of cars myself come through the shop with this stuff. And there's nothing but good stories. You hear, some outrageous stories sometimes, but some of the crazy stories of, I'll tell you about a customer. We actually wrapped his entire, I think it was a Camaro, or it was something with a hardtop, and a removable hardtop. And the hardtop was done in paint protection film. One day he went to Cars and Coffee, it started raining, so we got to leave, we got to go. Put the hardtop back on real quick, but he forgets to latch it, is what he tells us. And gets on the highway, boom, hardtop goes flying. And, what happens to a hardtop that goes flying? It just kind of goes all over the place, slides across. And, yeah, the corners and everything of the hardtop were beat up, right? But the top part, at least, where a majority of the paint protection film was, a lot of it was just the film that was damaged. Like, he brought it over to us to take a look at it, and it was just, hey, this Xpel film is crazy, because all I have to really do is work on the corners.
Wow. So man, what an insane, awesome story. I've never seen that one before, heard that one before. I mean, obviously this is yours, but I've never even heard that duplicated before. Man, I wish I had a video of that, because the one that you do see fairly often, which is always shocking, is when somebody backs up to like a yellow post in the ground, and then the yellow transfers onto the paint protection film, and then you'll see somebody pull. Now they might have even dented the body, right, or dented the body panel. But then they pull the film off, and then there's actually no scratch whatsoever, and the yellow's not there anymore. That one I've seen more than once, and that's not to say that you couldn't scratch through the film. It is possible, but the roof thing, yeah.
it
I
it just worked out.
I
Like
once did that with a television.
he trashed he got a new roof, because he's one of those particular types where everything has to be perfect. So he got a new roof, and this was more of just like a war trophy for him at that point. He showed it to us. I think this was back in 2019. He's a great guy, but it was just the craziest story, and it was just kind of that was the testimonial for me of like, okay, paint protection film is definitely worth it.
Yeah, what an amazing, awesome story. So going back to Dave, so he does this demo for me. I started selling it on basically every single Harley that there was, started preloading it. And then him and I were talking. I go down to his shop. He used to pick up and drop off for us, but he couldn't one day, and I needed the bike back for a customer. So I go down to his shop expecting to see this like monstrosity of an operation, kind of like yours, to be honest with you. That's what I was expecting to see. And instead it was a front counter person, him and one assistant. And I'm like, where's the rest of your team? Are they out at dealerships or whatever? And he's like, no, this is it. And I'm like, no, man, like this stuff's got to go on everything. Like there's no way that this isn't going on every single car in the country. It's like, no, I'm telling you, like this is our whole operation. So we formulated a business plan over a few months and then joined. And obviously the writing was on the wall, and we 10x'd it in 2 years, and it was awesome. Good times indeed. But wow, I love that roof story. But yeah, that's actually how I got into paint protection film. I had no clue what it was before that. Never heard of it.
That's awesome. I've always seen it. Like, I think my mom's like old Camry had like the dealership like partial special on there, the one that dry rots in the sun. So yeah. I've always kind of known about it, but I never really, until I started working here and really in the industry, as you start, it just smacks you in the head, in terms of like how much there is to know about it, and I love it.
I was on a phone call last night with a dealer who's been a dealer for over 20 years with selling paint protection film, and a great guy up in the Northwest in the Oregon or Portland, Oregon area. Yeah. And I was able to, he had a lot of, not a lot, that's unfair to him, but he had some of these like urban myths about paint protection film still, where he didn't realize that the top coat was non-porous, and that's what actually blocked the pores of the TPU, and that's what stopped the yellowing, and that's what Xpel was so famous for and all this stuff. He's like, what do you mean film's not porous? I know it's porous because that's how the moisture gets out. And I'm like, no, the moisture gets absorbed by the glue. Because if the moisture leaked out of the film, then you would end up with pockets where it didn't obviously attach itself to the body panel. Like, that's not logical. And
why do you think you're squeegeeing everything out?
Yeah, no, he was like, yeah, exactly. Like, why wouldn't it just push through? Good point. So, yeah, but it was good banter.
Yeah.
And then he's like, wow, like I didn't realize all that. I'm like, yeah.
So so when you saw that from Dave's shop, were you hooked instantly, or was it like a transition? You're like, or did you just seek out a job immediately? Like, I gotta work for these guys.
Wait. No, so again, I was just like, Dave, you're way too small. This is scalable. Kind of like, the way Chicago Auto Pros was, and Greg and everything, right? Like, you had somebody who was a visionary about, hey, this is an actual legitimate business that we can scale and make large and produce a healthy income for everybody involved. And I'm like, dude, like, how can you only be 3 people? You should be 20.
Yeah.
And how's the shop this instead of this? And like, so, and how many dealerships are you servicing? And he was servicing one, which was Harley. And there was 13 dealerships in Kamloops. And I'm like, he's like, all I want is the retail. I'm like, no, I like both. So obviously there's lots of shops that only want one or the other, or some stores like both, but I like both. So again, we just spitballed for a while. And I'm like, look, like, how about you run the back end? Because he was more of he was a good businessman for sure, but that was more my forte, right? The front end, and then him more the back end, and let's just design it out. So we, again, took about maybe 5 months, and we put the partnership together, and, the rest is history.
That's awesome.
He's still there, obviously.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is like, oh, you're just working on cars. It's like, no, this is our life. It's consumed us in terms of this is what we do. And I think you can kind of pick this up about me is like I'm kind of a nerd and I pick up on just the smallest things. And that's kind of what I've done with here is like all the smallest details that you need to know about whether it be paint protection film, ceramic coating, tint, or anything in that nature. That's what I'm here for, and that's what keeps me going, really.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of us in this business, it's an enjoyable career rather than a job. I loved being in the shop. I did. It's not like I didn't. And then when Matt Moreau came to me and sort of made me an offer to come down and help run the East Coast, and this is a little personal, but my father was suffering from cancer, so it was an opportunity for me to spend more time with him as well. And he ended up passing in 2020. But I got a few more years in with him, and I took the opportunity. But it's never been a job. It's always just been something way beyond that, and I love it to this day. Love every minute of it. I mean, obviously there's stressful times, and there's times where you're like, eh, this is not the best moment, but it's so few and far between.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely hard moments, but there's more good moments than the bad. You know, no matter how far I look back, I've definitely had way more good moments than bad in this industry in general.
Yeah, Ryan Pape always says, look, if you're enjoying yourself 9 out of 10, 90% of the time versus the 10, then it's obviously, something you should continue sticking with because it's enjoyable at that point. And I agree with him.
Yeah, 100%. So we're kind of coming around the 1 hour mark here, Chris. Is there anything you want to let people know about what Xpel's kind of got going on for 2025?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some stuff coming up, at the dealer conference that I think is going to be pretty cool. We've got a lot of advancements coming on with the DAP, the software itself, much more of a CRM platform. There's an app that's coming out that's actually already on the market now, but it's mostly being tested internally than external. It's no secret that, we've been spending a lot of time and effort in colored film, right? Colored paint protection film is his really advanced in the last 2 to 3 years, especially.
And I'll say the demand for it, probably from Q3 of last year till now, is definitely
It's picking up.
skyrocketing.
Skyrocketing. I agree with you. So, we're planning on talking about that at dealer conference and talk about launch dates and things of that nature. 2024 was an incredible year. Our affiliation, you can't call it partnership because of the way that Tesla words things. Their only official partner is Panasonic, which is their partner in their batteries. That's the only partner that they have. But, as you know, Tesla's got an official program with Xpel for their window film. And there is some things that I can't release as of yet because of NDAs, but more definitely developing as we speak, literally, maybe as soon as February 1st, we'll see. Exciting times on the go. The Rivian program has changed, right? Previously, most of the Rivians, well, that's not true. In the very beginning, about 1/3 of the Rivians were being done at factory in terms of paint protection film. About 2/3 were being done by our network. But then Rivian had some depletion in their sales. And then so what ended up happening was they had a small, and then they started taking on leasing. So between leasing and sales going down, their attachment rate for paint protection film went down. And so now this year, the new program is that Rivian has launched paint protection film and a window film in conjunction with our dealers. So now when you're on the Rivian platform, new or used, you can order your film or your tint right through your online platform or through your app. And then with that, it will prompt Xpel to engage with one of the dealers that's officially in the program. And there's definitely more of those coming. There's more brands that are coming to us and asking for a similar setup. So some exciting times. I mean, Xpel is like all the good companies in this space, whether it's Eastman or 3M, like none of us are sitting still, right? We're all trying to come up with something that's going to be more impactful and more important for our dealer base than ever before. And that's happening. The money we've been spending on IT and things of that alone is mind-boggling. Our new website's coming out. I'm really excited for when that launches. You know, the locator is going to be much more geo-located instead of like go in and find your state and your city and then hope that somebody's in there. So just plug in your zip code. It's going to give you the distance to instead. And it's much more engaging. It's much more modern. Like the current website, candidly speaking, is in age, that's an old website. It's old, right? In this day and age, that's an old website. So the new one's going to be really cool. I've got to see a lot of it, and a lot of stuff that's coming out as a result of it. And then the final part is the Marine. I think that the Marine is got an amazing opportunity, right? I don't think that there's no big brand currently in Marine other than us. We're the first ones in as a big brand. There is a smaller one, not to sound disrespectful, that's done a pretty decent job so far, Marine, but they don't have our resources. So I suspect that by summertime, we should be extremely dominant in the Marine and then continue to develop it. And that's exciting for us, right? To always think about like what's next.
Yeah.
And then you've got a ton of people that are getting into interior surface protection, like a lot. And we have companies that do nothing but that.
Question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You guys ever thought about getting into aviation?
Yeah, we're in aviation now. Because as you know, we have an aviation ceramic coating that is in fact approved, and that's not always easy. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's Boeing certified, which is what it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But that we're in that space now. It's obviously not a massive market, but the fact of the matter is, to be what I would call a true ceramic coating company, it would only be appropriate to say, hey, I've even got something for that market, even if it is not going to account for a lot of dollars and cents in terms of overall sales, and invest in that. So we did that. There's people that do interior surfaces and inside planes now a lot with our surface protection films, but when you're talking exterior, that's a big difference. So like those noses, which in essence is housing the radar and everything like that, that's already being done. A lot of times most planes, if I'm not mistaken, probably have some kind of film on that for obvious reasons, right? You don't want anything like a bird strike or whatever happening and then damaging your equipment behind it. And there's companies that specialize in that. They actually have the mold. They mold the film and they ship it as a mold. And then you literally can install it basically yourself, if you will. More market that we're looking into for sure, though, right? We're always looking at more. I think this year the biggest new market for us is really twofold. The marine surface protection film is a big one for sure this year for us, which is headed up by Ryan Townsley. I'm sure you know the name. It was the gentleman that used to own Protective Film Solutions that we acquired.
Yep.
And then, as I said, surface protection film interior. This is a massive market. When we look online and we look at opportunities, we scour the internet. We have a team of people that do that, and it seems like the inquiring that's happening for that in particular has grown dramatically, just like colored paint protection film has an example. So,
and is the interior targeting more like the piano gloss black that everybody's putting in cars now, or?
No, I'm referring to homes.
Oh,
sorry,
got it.
I'm talking about surface protection film inside homes, like your marble and your granite countertops and things like that. Yeah, it's really popular. As a matter of fact, we just finished a beautiful $22 million home in near Las Vegas, and it's in obviously a community outside of Las Vegas. $22 million home. We did all the glass countertops and his office and his outside tables and interior, and it was a big job, but it was incredible. And to see the finished result and the happiness from the customer was awesome. So I think that, again, something really worth focusing a lot of our attention on.
Yeah, that's definitely, I was not on the same page. I thought we were talking about interior cars. But yeah, that's awesome.
Already done a lot now, right? As you know, every single car that we pattern now, we do interior kit patterning as well.
Yeah.
And not only that, but as you know, we started doing the exterior windshield patterning, right? Since SEMA, there's no product that I've seen take off as rapidly as that for us.
And
That
I know
windshield
we've
protection
done
film,
more than a few cars already with the windshield
it's
film.
amazing. And amazing as a product for the consumer and install friendly, right? Which is the difficulty, because the older technology, the PET, man, there are very few people that want to touch that.
I remember a lot of sliced fingers.
There you go. So we've been patterning all the exterior windshields for that opportunity as well. In the interior, for like you said, whether piano black or whatever, nav screens has really become really popular. But we're telling people, hey, if you're gonna do the nav screen, do it with stealth, because the matte finish,
I
you don't
say
see
the
the
same thing.
fingerprints,
Yep.
you don't see the glare, and then you got the protection on top of it.
If you guys ever want us to make videos of the marine or aviation, we're branching out into that stuff, mostly in the wintertime, just because it's easy to do boats when they're lifted up, and then planes just because
They're parked away.
a lot more free time, and those hangars are always heated. So if you got anything you want us to test, I'd be down to make some videos about it.
Sure. Like, look, if you guys are involved in a project and you think it'd be really cool, please don't forget to reach out to us, because that's what happens a lot now, right? When we did that G550, it was Blackout that reached out to us and said, hey, I've got somebody with a brand new G550. I know you're about to launch your aviation ceramic coating. Any chance I could get a hold of it before everybody else? And we'll do a video at the same time. And so we love collaboration. So if you make us aware of it, then great. If we try and come up with it out of our own, it usually doesn't work out, because then you're like, got to go search, right? Oh, well,
Yeah.
I want this kind of boat, or I want this kind of plane, and well, is it available and when's it available? So right now we're shooting a lot of marine content in, I believe, Michigan, on some pretty serious watercraft. Look, the watercraft that's going to be the most obvious for surface protection film is the center console, right? The wakeboard boats, the ski boats, the fishing boats. So there's Ryan Townsley texting me in the background. That's the main market. Like, it's cool to do a yacht or a mega yacht or a super yacht. It is cool, but it's kind of like the Bugatti or the LaFerrari. Is that a LaFerrari that's up on the wall there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, some of our favorite cars on the planet, right? But one out of what, every 20,000 vehicles. So that's kind of like what the yacht world is like. It's amazing, but it's such a small percentage.
Yeah,
where
not everybody's got a yacht or a super yacht.
Yeah, center console. I mean, you got a big market with a lot of adoption. These guys coming in and banging up against the side of the docks and marking up those beautiful paints. It's a real thing.
Dude, the Super Aeronautique, I saw one at the boat show with like an insane like metallic blue flake. It was crazy. I'm like, that's the kind of thing that needs paint protection film on it.
It's a $500,000 boat.
Yeah.
Right?
It sounds wild that it's $500,000, because you would think that's a lot, but you see way more of those boats out on the water than like $500,000 cars that you see on the road.
Is it going to be able to be? So I know in the ceramic coating world, at least for marine, a lot of it is above the waterline, is what it's rated for. Is it the same for the film?
Yeah, I mean, look, do we have clients that go below waterline? We do. And is there tapes that you could use that would help to, block off the edges and therefore hopefully not get any water pressure hitting the edges and therefore lifting the film? Yes, it is. It does work to an extent, but is there warranty? The answer is no, because you'd have to warranty fresh water and salt water.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And how would you know? And you can't. Like, salt water is not possible. But even in salt water, like, am I telling you that customers don't go below waterline? I'm telling you for a fact they do, but we let them know up front there's no warranty on that specifically. And then you have people that make mistakes. Like, if you're gonna do the hull, right? And you do, let's say the bow, well, you gotta wrap it around it. You can't have it coming to an edge there and then obviously separating in the water. Like, that's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So there's tricks to make the installation more reasonable to succeed in sticking around. But yeah, it's waterline up in terms of warranty. Anything below waterline is not. But again, we're still working on more technologies. We're working on anti-fouling technologies and things like that, where maybe at some point we could produce something that we would feel more accustomed to being able to give a warranty. But keep in mind that everything that we have right now including our window tint, right? We have marine specific window tint. That's not the same kind of window tint that you would use in a vehicle. In salt water, you can't use that film. It will 100% erode and degrade. But we had window film made for marine specific that will stand up to it. Obviously, a lower warranty time in comparison, but regardless. So everything is designed for it. And again, we continue to work on more pieces, more opportunities. I mean, I think that right now, when you look at marine surface protection film, the engine cowls on outboards is obvious. Like, it's really obvious. The top of your gunnels is really obvious if it's not, if it doesn't have like that texture to it, because obviously you won't be able to do it if it's got the texture. And then sidewalls, all your electronics should be done for sure.
Yeah.
And then what I've done with a lot of them is I've even done the like, let's say you're in a fishing boat, right? Well, they have the cab, if you will, in the center, but they have like these Lexan sort of like coverings, right? Clear. Well, they have wiper blades, right? And so you're like, okay, well, what can we do to make this better? Well, let's tint the interior, and then let's coat the exterior. And then their way, just like just like the raindrops on the coated windshield, same thing as you're riding along, it's rushing away from it. So but yeah, I mean, I think that, like always, XDC is a product launch time for us, and then obviously SEMA.
Yeah. That's good. You guys are working on a lot.
A lot. Yeah. There's so many things in the works right now.
Do you have your hands in like everything, or like do you have a main focus on automotive?
No, I have a pretty much a hand in everything. We have
I don't know why that happened. That was not me.
I didn't do that.
Okay, some guest instead. Yeah, I mean, I have my hands a little bit in everything, but the reality is, the senior director of sales, my focus is North America.
Mm-hmm.
I try hard to stay in my wheelhouse. But, we have such an amazing management team, whether I'm talking to the managing director of Asia, like Chris West, or Marcel from Europe, or Eric with regards to Latin America and things of that nature. We tend to try and help define something that our market is looking for, and whether or not it's another market looking for. Because when you go to product management, you need to prioritize what you need.
Yes.
Right. If every one of us just went to them and said, this is what I want in my market, well, we'd probably never get anything actually accomplished. So what we do is we collaborate. We'll come up with, like, let's say 10 items that we're identifying as the most important needs, and we'll number them then 1 through 10, each of us separately, and then take the tally of the number, and then that's what determines the priority list. And then, of course, timeline defines that too, right? Because sometimes I'll go to Chris Domenico, who's in charge of our product team, and I'd be like, Chris, how long would it take you to develop, let's say, colored paint protection? Let's just imagine that's the one. He's like, Chris, it's going to take me 2 years before I'm ready to go to market, between testing and everything, before I'm happy. Great. Then I'll go to, like, what about our classic coating, which is the 4-year coating? How long would it take you to develop the V2 status like we did with premium? Because everybody loves our premium V2, right? I don't know if you guys have played with that one or not. That's the one where it sweats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one where it sweats when it's time to level it. You can't mess that one up. You still have to be a professional to install it, of course. I would never recommend that. We won't sell it to a person for DIY. But at the end of the day, it makes the installation job. Well, we need to do that obviously with the Classic as well, right? It was a game changer. How long will it take you to give me that? I can get you that in 6 months. Okay, even though I know that colored film will sell more and I'll have more revenue and more impact for a consumer base, that may not now make number one if I can get something else that's a problem, if you will, or a challenge in a sooner time frame. So yes, in essence, to try and better answer your question, I'm also super nosy, and I want to sort of be aware of everything. And so I kind of stick my beak in probably where I shouldn't sometimes. I'm sure some of my teammates would say that. But yeah, I try and be involved in all of it.
That's sweet.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just wanted, everybody in the Xpel network at least kind of knows who you are, but I don't think everybody has had the opportunity at least to really speak to you or get to kind of know you on a personal level. So thank you so much for doing this.
Gosh, sincere pleasure, and thank you as well. Again, congratulations to all your success. I know that the members I'm staring at right here on this are a big part of it. So I just think it's awesome what Chicago Auto Pros has achieved. And hey, I know you're going to just become that much bigger and better and continue to grow.
We definitely appreciate that. That's the goal, at least. And just like you, we make goals happen. So
Awesome. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you so very much. And again, I appreciate this time together.
yeah,
Cool,
thanks,
yeah.
Chris.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Chris.
much.
Bye, guys.
Cool.
Bye.